This is where we talk to inspirational professionals within economic development. And I have a special guest here with me today. She's been on Dev TV before, one of our most popular guests on Dev TV. And she is about to tell us her story, how she got into development, the challenges in development, and the recipe for the success that she's got in economic development. Please welcome my guest. Please, can you introduce yourself to
Thank
us?
you so much, Habib, for having me again on this show. Yeah, my name is Mahlet. I'm from Ethiopia. I have around 13 years of experience in the development sector, especially 10 years on the economic development part. So glad to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. So, as I was just saying in the intro, this series is about inspiring people. And as a woman, as a black woman, how did you get into economic development? What did you, when you were studying at university, did you just gravitate towards economic development, or is something that was inspired by something or somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. In college, I studied agriculture. Um, but even when you do agriculture, there is that business element of it. Then how do I really make sense out of it? Not only, telling others or farmers what to do when, uh, but in general, to actually bring change. Then what is our focus on? Actually, I was attracted. I get into this economic development part when I started my work. Before I finished my masters, I had an opportunity to work with GIZ in in a smaller town where it was a time where these many universities were being constructed in Ethiopia. So I got a chance to work as an enterprise officer and working in this small town. I mean, there are, I mean, unemployment is the biggest issue, especially in urban areas or peri-urban areas in Ethiopia, especially youth who can be of at much benefit to the country. That's when I really get inspired, especially to work with women and youth, because they are the core of the society that we can make use of. So that's where I get inspired. Even if afterwards I get back to university to become a lecturer, and then I said maybe this is not my place. I want to go back to development.
Wow.
So that's when after 1 year of being a lecturer, then I decided no, I want to go back to the village
Development. Well,
to development. And
so
actually, yeah.
you were studying development at university.
I was a lecturer. I was teaching
No, before
agriculture.
that, before that.
Before that,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
And then during that time, you got an opportunity with GIZ.
yes,
And then you finished that and you went back to university to teach.
yes.
And you just weren't happy with the teaching and you went back to development.
Yes, I mean, teaching should come, I said, with practice because of the huge, what can I say, labor flow. There was definitely, with the universities also expanding in the country, there was a huge demand for professionals to become teachers. But I said, before you get to go and teach others, I said, I just want to have the hands on first. I need to go back and mix myself with the soil before I tell others what to do. So that's why I went back to the development to work in the rural area with women and youth. But by then, I can say it was also not so much common, maybe for girls by then, I can say, or women who had a chance to study in town or in urban area to actually go back and to the rural area. But I have got that opportunity. That's when I explored it to work in a rural area and remote villages for 2.5 years.
Wow.
I started as an officer and then become a livelihood coordinator. That's when I really explored and change can happen. And if you are committed, and there is also what I always say, like we always talk about, like building or improving people's lives, them becoming resilient. But then I also say we should also be resilient ourselves before actually going out. And how do we build resilience for others? First, we should be
Be
resilient
resilient
ourselves.
before, yes.
Yes, yes.
So what, something that you said there caught my attention. So, the youth and women. So, would you say that's the real trigger when when you were first in GIZ? You saw the level of impact you can have on the youth and the women, and so that's what created the thirst to go back, or is it purely a financial decision that the
Yeah.
GIZ were paying better than the lectures? Is that what happened?
I no career was the drive, because by then you definitely prefer to stay in an NGO world rather than going to become a university lecturer. But there was also another dynamics beyond my control to actually stay in the university that made my decision then to immediately go back. I only stayed there for 1 year, so immediately go back and join the development sector. But working with GIZ, by then, what I can say is that maybe private sector mentality also maybe might have come earlier. But in informing the big investors, the big private sectors, that they have that readiness and mentality to work with those who are actually looking for work, not only with the bigger existing ones, but also trying to give them, to make them subcontractors when they can do like small things of electric installation. It could
Right.
be the masonry work. It could be the plumbing work. So creating that, facilitating that change of actually bringing those big private sector contractors, I can say, and actually these startups kind of, or small enterprises that can create that employment opportunity for many women and many youth.
So now, women especially, right? And by women, I'm talking about the professionals, not the participants. So when you went back after the lecture, after being a lecturer, did you, because you are a woman, connect better with the women that you're working with? Or actually, maybe the question I should have asked is, when you returned, did you return to the same project that was engaging youth and women?
Yeah.
And was it the woman element, because you're a woman and you understand the plight of those women? Would you say that's one of the things that really helped you stay for 2.5 years in the rural area?
Yes, I can say it was even my motivation to actually take that opportunity was getting a chance to work with women in remote locations, in rural areas. For me, having an opportunity to study and then to be able to get job or employment opportunities, I said, I mean, not everybody gets these opportunities. I know where my mom comes from. I know where my grandmother have passed through. So, the sky should be the limit. I should be able to explore, even if I don't get a chance to actually go back and where my mother is from, because that's what she always used to tell us. You should go and see the small village I came from, and you should contribute to the community. But I said, it's one country. I can go work everywhere. So that's also my motivation. My mom always used to say, you have to be an independent woman. You should make your own. You should have your own voice, and you should lead your life. So, but also become a reason for others. Also, my mom as a nurse has dedicated her entire life to serving others. So even if I was not a nurse like her, I said in whatever I have worked or studied for, that's what I want to do for others. So that's where I get my inspiration, working with women. I mean, that is the easiest I can do, right? For people like me, who have the same, maybe not a similar emotional, but at least physical, and that connection is, I can say, is very unique.
So, I mean, this might be more like a philosophical question. So, does that, the fact that you're a woman, you understand the plight of women through the experiences of your grandmother and your mother. Would you say that's a prerequisite for a woman to work in development, to have those sort of like similar experiences? Would you say that's a recipe for some of the successes that you've had?
I mean, I cannot say for full 100% like a prerequisite, because I mean there are men who also have that, but it has that motherhood or female element, even if like talking to other men, including I can say my husband. I mean, if depending on your upbringing, it might be, but it cannot be 100% like kind of prerequisite. But it has its own high influence to actually have that drive and also commitment. As I said, it definitely needs commitment, and also relating what I have been through and what I may come up in the future. So how would I will be able to connect. So definitely, I mean, that element, or having maybe for a man, it could be from his mom or from his sister. So it may not be 100% prerequisite, but yes, it
It's
has its
important.
own. It's very, very important. Yeah.
So that's interesting for me because so you now have, as a woman, you're able to help women because you understand their plight and you have the history and you share some level of experience with them. But you chose to pursue a particular path in development, which is the livelihood, economic development, market systems development. Would you have been better? Would you have served those people better if you had pursued the sort of like inclusion pathway rather than the economic and livelihood pathway?
I mean, not one person can have everything, but I believe a collection of people or a collection of team would bring that maybe maximum level of achievement or impact. But I also have asked that question myself to say, if I was in a different field, have I done the same thing? um, but not necessarily, because I mean, one, there is a way that life will take you, and there is definitely a choice that would come at the beginning, maybe midway, when you reflect, where am I now, where is this path going to take me? But not really, because I mean, everything has its own bigger spot to put on. But I would say still the economic, because that's where most of the women are really challenged, right? Decision making. I mean, we shouldn't go like far to women in the rural village, but it's all in our houses. Call it urban, call it rural. It's all in our houses. So definitely the economic development part is very key. Unless you have a better income, talking about education, talking about health, talking about food, uh, will be, very difficult. So what is there? How is the household self-sustenance to actually drive that? So I would say a team of different expertise and knowledge would make it complete, but there is no one thing fits all.
So before we move on to the next area of discussion, which would be the challenges you have had as a woman in this profession, what? So I'm a young female graduate thinking about career choice. What would you say has been, apart from financial success, what would you say had been your particular success in economic development, especially when you think about when you started, the change that you've made, and the learnings that you've had? What would you say has been your success so far as a woman in economic development?
I would say it's not an easy question. I would say maybe even if the influence has, a high level influence can be, but there is also, a small influence by other women or other girls seeing you. I remember working in that remote village. Um, at some point, we started with 200 women, working with women who are in small saving groups, and then bringing that number up to 700 and then 1,000. I mean, I loved the women, and they also loved me so much. I at some point I don't even feel like, even if we speak different languages, it's the way I would realize is when I get to the village is, oh, now we don't speak the same language, I have to find someone. But there is this simple connection, that we can still talk in different languages. Maybe at some point is when we need an interpreter, but it is, I can say it is influence. They would ask me, by then I was not married, so they would ask me like, when are you going to have kids? But the kind of influence is, I mean, starting them with the first training, they would say now is the time. Even if I have a challenge at my home, now is the time. Based on that training, now I want to really make sure that I provide for my kids so that they go to school, because we were having that two level of comparison to say what would make a girl to continue to go to education. Is it actually supporting the girls through school expenses and uniforms and such that, or is it supporting the mother who would actually make future lives of the girls and the household better? So I would say it was influence, having women from the same country, even if the upbringing might be different. uh, I believe it was an influence. I
Fantastic.
remember after even 5, 6 years, there were some women who we used to be talking, even from that rural village. But also, I would also follow up, like, where are they? So some of them have been phenomenal in terms of continuing their incomes, but at the same time also sending their girls to school because they have seen someone who can make even small difference. So we don't have to expect to go to become a scientist. I mean, small things would also influence others. So we don't have to complicate things to actually, what have I done, blah blah. But you can make small interaction um, with others who does not have got the opportunity. But I can say it was influence.
Fantastic. I mean, that fits really nicely into what we're trying to achieve here on this in this series, which is to say, how do we inspire professionals to become a lot more successful in the impact that they are working on. So before we move on to the challenges, I wanted to make the point that economic development for women is not only lucrative, but the influence of your mere existence as a woman going to these remote areas, even just walking the streets as a professional, is enough to inspire other young girls, as you have heard from our guest. So, in the next session, we will be talking about the challenges of being a woman in economic development.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, so now you've talked about how you got into development. You talked about the taste of being a lecturer and the dissatisfaction that you had, and you went back to development. You've talked about your motivating factor, which is the idea of inspiring not only girls, but women to actually make sure that the girls follow education and follow a path that will hopefully result to major impact in their community. So the next phase of discussion, or perhaps the next phase of question, would be around the peculiarities of being a woman in economic development. What would you say is the difference between being a male economic development professional and a female economic development professional?
Yeah. Maybe to start with, I mean, the culture um, where we grew up, maybe it can be in general in Africa, but it can also be particular to Ethiopia. I mean, it has its own challenge of being in that sector then, and also going out, as I said, maybe traveling to remote villages. Maybe it could be in a car, maybe a female with all other males in the vehicle, or it could be staying in relatively unsafe or insecure locations, and also having the need for that interaction with a lot of different stakeholders. So, which I mean, it's obvious much of the sector is male-dominated sector. So, to have that interaction at first does not come like at ease. I remember one consultant who traveled all the way from Addis, which is Addis, and that place that I was working was 700 kilometers away. So we were in this remote village talking to the women who are in these saving groups. So he was asking me where I was from, whether I came from a rural part or I came from Addis Ababa, which is the same, the capital. So I told him I'm from Addis, but he was like, "But what are you doing here?" I mean, I have studied agriculture, so this is the place I should be starting off from. But he said, "No, not most women or girls would come to stay and work in this remote village." But I would say, if I want to grow throughout my career and have a hands-on experience, this is a place to start. And you should see the challenges are where the community are going through before you go out and say do this, don't do that. So that experience I would never forget, and I also tell to most of my colleagues to say, unless you experience it in practice, hands on, then that's where your career to start to lay its foundation on. So you know the problems, and even if you come up with a solution, your voice is much louder than others. And I mean, there is no absolute pleasure of getting that like in-person experience of working with the women. So I would say that definitely the challenge would be interacting with a lot of even stakeholders. Working in a male-dominated environment also makes it very challenging, and definitely as a female, there are expectations. So now you have finished studying, you are working, and then what? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? That's even if you hear and live it, it may come on and on and on as a family, maybe from siblings or from family members. So, yeah, I mean, those expectations are one thing, but the challenge of working, I mean, I have worked with amazing male supervisors who are also my mentors, but not everybody is like that. But there are others when you make decisions, sometimes you consult, sometimes you have to decide, but not every male supervisor would be happy when you make that decision of today I'm going to do this, I'm going here, and this is going to be like this. There are some who would not appreciate when a female stood up and say I'm going to do this. So those kinds of situations would derail you a little bit, but we should be ready. And maybe as a female, what I can say is, I mean, it is definitely challenging. That's what we should expect. There are going to be a lot of challenges, but as they say, what does not kill you makes you stronger. Is that we should keep on pushing boundaries. I mean, when there are a lot of women that need support, I mean, if it does not come from a woman, who do we expect it to come from? So unless we are there, it is even going to be more harder for those women. So we have to think of our mothers, our grandmothers, who have passed through to reach us where we are today. So unless if we go back and try to uh, incorporate what we can do, then it will not be easy.
Wow. So there are challenges from family, right? Putting pressure on you to move on to marriage, especially because you've studied, you started working.
Yeah.
So the next logical step, as far as family is
Yeah.
concerned, is to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
And then you have the in work challenge of dealing with men. Uh, some of them will not like the fact that you have the authority to, or the effrontery to talk to them in meetings. Some of them will not supervise you as they ought to supervise you. Are there tools or things that you've learned over the years of using to deal with these issues? What would you say as the say one or two ways that you've been able to use to deal with these issues?
I can say one which has really helped me is quick recovery. So when I face a challenge, I don't want to dwell into it and overthink about it. So let's say a simple example. Maybe because whenever we face challenge, maybe the first thing that we do is it because I'm a female, or is it because but not actually getting into that male female kind of this kind of, if I can say, disaggregation. But quick recovery for me has really helped me. So we will get into arguments, that's work, expected. We'll get into a lot of challenge. So the way we thought about it, maybe someone else have completely thought about it in a different opinion. So even if that happens, it's work and differentiating between the subject and the object. So here we may get into an argument, expectations, and what is actually done is completely different. But you have to differentiate between the subject and the object. So whatever happened is work. It does not have anything to do with Mahlet or Habib. So it is a work. Don't really get it linked with that subject always, and then move quickly. Quickly recover. Some things might make you cry, so I can also cry it out, but you have to quickly recover and move on because there is a lot to be done. There is a lot to be achieved. So if we are hanged on to say, oh my God, this happened, how am I going to deal with it? No, we will be stepping on where we're standing. So quick recovery has really, really helped me out a lot. The other one is I'm not in this alone. So whenever I am in a stressful situation or I have a hard deliverables that I cannot do by myself. I mean, nothing is to be done by yourself. You can lead, you can guide, but there is always others that you can work with. So I'm not in this alone. There is somebody else somewhere who's going through the same problem. So I'm not the only one going through this challenge. So definitely there is someone. It's just that we're somewhere different. But go out and ask for support. So those are the things that really helped me to move forward. And I have shared one of two to other female colleagues of mine. I have received feedback to say, yeah, the quick recovery, I really like it. So, so I can also ask others to do it, and I would like to hear more feedbacks.
Yeah, no, it'd be good, please, if you're watching this, to put in the comment section if you've adopted a quick recovery method, and let us know if you have other methods that may have helped, so we can begin to learn from it. Now, I recognize that the challenges for you as a woman in this sector is certainly different from mine as a man. What would you say will help reduce, ease, or mitigate some of the risk that you face as a woman? What are the things that I can do as a man, or the way I think about things as a man, that may ease or at least create a really nice, conducive environment for a woman to thrive, given that I belong to the dominant gender in this sector?
Um, I would say having a support system in place. So that support system could be formal, informal. The informal could be social. Maybe it could be a network of female in your family, in your friends, or it could be a system, maybe like what we have discussed last time when we talk about the interventions that we did. So that support system, both the formal and informal, would really help women, others in the sector, even beyond this sector, would really help women to thrive and deliver equally, if not beyond, than their main peers. So those support systems, and we realize those support systems by the time we don't get a chance to actually use them. So I can say, me personally, I am very lucky to have that support system, but actually also using that system. Some may have that support system, but not actually openly discussing. So it could be from your spouse, it could be from family members, it could be from social other female. So we may have female groups which are mothers, which are still in their career, but would like to share something. So creating those small things. Maybe I can give an example here, based on the previous example of that the childcare that we talked about. And as I said, change always should start within. It's not easy. It's not always easy when we talk, externally, to say we should do this, we should change that, we should do this to the community. But what about ourselves? So in the office, we have also started this practice, actually discussing the issues as colleagues, both male, female colleagues, before actually going and the social action and analysis kind of activities. So before actually going to the rural locations, to say what to discuss in male groups, female groups, what are your challenges at the household, but also discussing that at office with colleagues
About
about
yourselves.
our own household challenge. So discussing with our spouses, our partners, our husbands, openly, to say what, as a female, as a mother, as a wife, what do I want to achieve? What is my career plan? So we cannot do anything hiding from our partners or our husbands. So that is one support system. So if we are clear where we want to go, whose is a priority, like what is best for the family, that is the first thing that should happen. And the support system, as I said, should also be in place, and openly discussing that, because as I said, we are not alone in this. There is a lot of others who are going through similar challenges or experiences, that if we say it out loud, we will have hundreds, if not thousands, of people lining up going, oh my God, this is also my challenge. If I have a baby, where am I going to keep my baby starting going to work? So offices, I can say, in Ethiopia, in Addis, they have started now to have childcare services. So that's what we also did the same for our office space in Addis, to have a childcare space, because change should start from within. Before telling others what to do,
You should do it.
you should do it. So yeah, that support services system is what I can say.
So thanks very much for that. So now I want to get a bit more personal. How did you manage? I mean, obviously, you started your career, you're doing well in the career, and then you got married and kids. So was there any particular lessons that you've learned when you got married, between the marriage and the kid, and since the kid? Are there things there that you think women that are coming into this profession should really look out for, especially because your job is not to just sit in the office. It's to go out to the field, especially to remote areas. So what would you say are the challenges when you got married? Because you have a spouse, you have to live with the spouse for a while. And then when you had your kid, and and then you have to leave the kid. Well, I don't know whether or not you left
Yes,
the kid.
yeah,
So what are those challenges, and what would be your advice to
yeah,
a young woman that's thinking of a career in economic development?
yeah. I mean, um, for the timing, I mean, I can say where your career has come from, what you have been through, and where you are going, and how you discuss that, how you are perceived by your spouse, by your family, also would matter, because it's not similar like for everybody.
Everybody.
So because I started from the field, and my passion, and also my I can say kind of commitment, as well as also readiness, uh, somehow did not make it very difficult to actually go back to work um, once I have a kid. Maybe that have played a little bit of a role, because it's not that I'm going to somewhere new that I have never been before, so that would make me a bit scared. I think that's a little bit contributed to handling that dynamics, a complete shift for me. It has been a complete shift of being independent, going all the places, anywhere, anytime. Then now you have a family that you should be taking care of. Then how do I do that? How do I do that balance? So I think that prior discussion experience, where I come from, I have been doing it, so it will not be an additional a huge lot of burden, but definitely it is a big challenge. But the understanding I have with my husband really helped me, because he knew where I have been working. Uh, so that understanding, that flexibility was really there. And what I mentioned earlier, the support system around my family also, that's why I said not everybody will have a family support, but whether we call it informal or system support. So that's where all that intervention that we talked about last time also came from. So it is not the same for everybody, but there should be a support system in place that would understand to actually make women push the boundaries while balancing family and career. So that's where I say this: if the system is in place, every woman would be, I mean, would love to continue their career than making that tough decision of, okay, now it's a time for my kids, because you cannot do two things at a time when you don't have the support system. So for me, that was the support system I had from my family, from my sister, from my dad, and also from my husband's side. So that support system, and you confidently also pushing the boundaries. It's not easy, but it will definitely pay you back. So that understanding, that discussion, and utilizing. I mean, as Ethiopians, we also have hesitations, maybe to ask for support, rather than bearing everything on our shoulders, but asking for support, creating also. As I said, we are not in this alone. What else have that women done to actually continue to work while having family? I think that kind of boundary pushing and discussing our experiences would really allow us to push those boundaries. So that's what really worked for me: the support system and the open conversations at family.
Did you ever get to the point where you thought to yourself, you know what, it's better that I stay with my family, bring up my children,
Yeah.
support my husband in his business or his career, and basically just compromise my own professional ambition? What was it? I mean, you talked extensively about support, but in terms of your own thinking about this issue, what was it that propelled you to combine these two incredibly hard things?
Yeah, definitely. I have, I don't know, if not three, four times. I do well remember two times. I mean, once I had my son, and then the time comes to go back to office, I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen at all. Like work now, I have to work like 8 hours, come back and take care, and then go to work the next day. I thought it was impossible. But after staying for 3 months of maternity, then I said, maybe it's good. Let me test it. Let me go back to office. If it's something that will work, then I will see. So it was, 1 day, 2 days, a week, then 2 weeks. I even said, I discuss with other. Fortunately, there was also another mother who also get a chance to discuss. Then how is it? That networking. I'm not in this alone. Really helps. Oh, okay. And I'm not the one only. There is another one in the office as well. So I said, then we talk. We share experiences to say if you, when once a child starts eating, then you can provide. Okay, then me going out to the office, even I will have some different experiences to share with others. So if I stay home, then I said maybe that exposure may not be to that level of extent. So that's what gave me the drive. But at first I don't think it's going to happen. Then also comes when I had my daughter, and then I also had that same question. Oh, now even there are two, it's going to be impossible. But that drive. Maybe for the other question that you asked, I mean, my hero is my mom, and my mentor is my sister. So I have my mom. We are four, so she did it. Even if she had a lot of support by then, I mean, that is even if the culture is now a little bit fading away. That is how it is back home in Ethiopia. So. My mom, I mean, she have done it with 4 kids. So how am I not supposed to do it with 2 kids? I should do it. She have done it. So there are a lot of other mothers, who have done it. So, I mean, why should I be the one to do that? But not everybody. Everybody. I mean, other people have their own options and their own decisions. But if it is what you want, then you can do it. So all the mothers out there has been my inspiration, because I'm not in this alone. And yes, the support system I have. And I also said, if I don't continue to work, whatever work it can be, whatever, it does not have to be a formal employment, anything, then what am I going to, what kind of role model will I be to
For
my
your daughter.
kids? Because my mom has provided better for me, then I should be able to provide better for my daughter and for my son. So that is the drive that always keeps on pushing me. So yeah.
So, I mean, this is inspirational, and this is the object of this series. It's just to inspire more women
Yeah.
to consider career and economic development, and to begin to see that they have options. They may follow your path or some other path.
Definitely.
Would you say your decision? I suppose the right question would be, what are the consequences of some of these decisions that you've made? Have you seen any positive or negative, any real consequences of your decisions that you think may inspire others?
Wow. Okay. This is a tough one. Yeah. Because maybe when it comes to having kids, people would say, there is have more kids. So that could be somehow the drilling. I mean, given the culture, the society that we have come from, but now it's a completely different era of globalization. So career and family is, I mean, it's not an option. I mean, as a woman, I can say it is. You have to balance it. So it depends on people's choices. But if that is what you decide, then you have to make it work. You cannot always be crying about the decisions that you have made. So I would say for me, the consequences would be a positive influence, as much as, the influence, it's a very small level of influence for the network for that I have with my social or with my professional. Uh, I mean, consequences would be maybe someone would like to push their education further. I know women, I have friends who have kids, have done their, they have excelled exceptionally. The consequences sometimes might be a little bit of social exclusion, because to say, you have kids and you are still not paying attention to the house, at some point there might be a lot of social exclusion from family and others. But as I said, it just needs a little bit of patience and quick recovery, self-discovery. You mature even as you grow in your career, and you have also kids that you nurture. Not only, it's not only food, because sometimes you can just read a book and then it will be enough. So what are we going to teach our kids? So yeah, the consequences could be a little bit of social exclusion, being tried to everywhere, every time. Your social life would be affected, especially while your kids are so young. That is the one thing I can say I'm not so much into, because of my time. So that social commitments with a wide network would be limited, definitely. But otherwise, it will come in its own pace, as long as we decide now career and family. Once I push them forward, then how would I be able to balance?
No, thank you very much for that. Just to wrap this up, we've been talking for a while. You're you're a senior professional in your profession. You have you have you continue to influence a lot of the young people or young women that are coming into the profession. Where would you say your ambition is? What is there? What more is it that you really want to try and reach out for, and hopefully have carved out a path to?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, as something that would come equally to the professional career, and even something that I really want to engage on, even if I have been engaged on, but like more at scale, would be what I talked about earlier about influencing girls, because it always occurs to me, this vicious circle that we are trying to, as development professionals, this vicious circle that we are trying to break, of poverty, bringing a lot of actors, private sector actors, to actually bring in a sustainable change, impactful. But I have that one critical question of this cycle. How can we actually be able to contribute to break that cycle? I believe education is so key. Whether you pursue a professional career, whether you become a business person, that foundational education is key. So, and as men, as much as boys get that, I mean, it comes at a given for boys. Even, from the previous experience I told you, working in a village, it comes at a given for boys to go to school. Maybe at some point a choice for them to actually drop out of school. Definitely other economic factors. But for girls, it does not come at a given. They don't have what we found out was they don't have role models to look up to, these girls, that would inspire them to continue to go to school, or even, it may not necessarily be about finishing school, but having that aspiration in life. So they say, who do we look up to? Because all the women that they see in their village, either they are married, have a lot of other kids, that is it. They don't have role models that they want to look up to. there is no TV, maybe mobile is now getting closer, but they need also role models. Someone from their village has pushed boundaries, and they are just, the sky is the limit for them. So they want role models like that. So that's my biggest aspirations. Even women like myself, like my mother, those girls who from the rural village have achieved uh, excessively, and they can become role models to those, because I mean the